What I'm going to do is present you with some statistics I know about this epidemic, and then I'm going to read a short chapter from my book, Tracks. I think you need to know what I tell everybody is that I write suspense. I write dead bodies, I write knives and guns and all of that, but this has been one of the most difficult books that I have researched because I need to preface this. The opioid to heroin addiction in my book is only a subplot, but it's a major subplot. And as I researched it, it was terrifying for me because we're not talking about zombies, we're not talking about gangs, we're talking about maybe what might be your neighbor next door. I want to give you a couple quick statistics. We all know that President Trump said yesterday that more people are dying from drug overdoses than from gun homicides and motor vehicle accidents. In fact, it's the leading cause of death this year among persons under 50 years of age. I can tell you that you have a handout, and I want you to get to that. I can tell you that with my research, I realized certain things. Marijuana is not the gateway drug anymore because marijuana is being legalized in so many states, either recreational or medicinal. And so guess what? The cartels in Mexico are not making the money. They're not stupid. So in the Sinaloa mountains, they've removed the marijuana fields and they're planting poppies. And they're planting poppies for the heroin, for the opioids. And I would give you statistics, but you can find them on your own. It's scary because they're paying migrants to chop off all these the poppies, cut them up. They get nothing. They get nothing. And then it goes to what is called a gum factory. And at the gum factory, they're reducing it down. With every step of the way, they're getting a little bit more money, a little bit more money. But when it comes across the border, that's when things get serious because that's where the risk is. That's where the price goes up. Now, let me take this back toward our neighbor next door. We know this. We know that opioids have been overprescribed by our physicians. We get that. It's in the news almost every day, and certainly yesterday it was. We know that the soccer mom next door has horrible tennis injury. So she's been prescribed opioids. She calls her doctor, and by the way, I don't think any one of us, if we have a good doctor, cannot call our doctor and say, I fell on my back, I don't want to come in, can I get a prescription? And you might just get one. At least yesterday you could. So she'll call in again and she'll say, I'm just not quite well, I need one more prescription. There are so many unscrupulous doctors that are prescribing. But now, this particular woman, her doctor finally said enough is enough. I can't even give you that prescription anymore. So she turns to the streets. Now in the streets is the new product, fentanyl. And fentanyl is a heroin. It's being sold on the streets as heroin, but it's also been cut into the opioids to make it less costly. All right? So now we have a really smart soccer mom next door, and she's saying, gosh, I don't really know what I'm buying, and it kind of scares me. well then that's when they turn to the heroin. The heroin will give them twice the high for half the cost. We can introduce a new world where my statistics are here for you to take home, but you know, we're trying. We have this new thing called Narcan, and it's being assigned to almost every emergency first responder as possible because of the crisis in our abuse, in our near fatalities. What they can do is they'll either inject it or put it in their nasal passages and try and hope that their heart will resume beating. This is the state of our country. This is what Donald Trump tried to explain. With the pass out, I have a new, actually the Arizona Department of Health now has an official website, daily counting this. So like from June to October 27th in the state of Arizona, there have been 471 suspect opioid deaths, 3,599 opioid overdoses. Neonatal abstinence syndrome cases are on the rise. It's just staggering. So what I understand, again, if you'll remember, I write about blood and murder and this and that, but this was very, very scary for me, this research. That's what I'm sharing with you. I would like to read you a passage or two. I'm going to start kind of in the middle of my manuscript, my book, and here we go. If I can start. I've learned a few things and I've barely scratched the surface. Schlepp said. We all know heroin usage is at an all-time high. First, we have the opioids that are being legally prescribed at an unimaginable rate. I'm guessing every single one of us can call up our doctor and get a script. We fell, we hurt, we don't feel like we can go to the ER. This is your neighbor next door, your everyday soccer mom. You know the kind. She attends the PTA meetings. She works the fundraisers and finds the sponsors for the team's jerseys. When the kids are at school, she enjoys a Pilates class, maybe a game of tennis. Before picking up her organic produce for that evening, she now thinks about her torn rotator cuff. Your neighbor looks into local pain management clinics and gets by for a while, but with a hefty cost she's trying to hide from her husband. Then she learns she can buy the opioids off the street, but she's worried. She really doesn't know what's in them. She's educated, after all. She starts researching her options. With heroin, she has a better idea of what she's taking. She also knows that heroin will bring her a higher high and at much less expense. I'm going to advance forward to another chapter on this abuse. The poppies are cultivated in the Mexican mountains for the milky substance called opium gum. We all know El Chapo's vast territory is in the Sinaloa Mountains. I've yet to identify where Bibione, that's one of my characters, may be operating, but I can confirm he is there. Once harvested, they then smuggle this product into the hands of people that will transport it into makeshift labs. They heat the gum to produce the heroin. It's pretty much that simple. You can imagine at this stage of the game, Bibione isn't paying any of his laborers much, even though there is risk. Still, at this point, the product is now worth about $3,000 per kilo. The higher risk comes with bringing the product into the States. Trap cars crossing the border are still being used, but people don't understand that there's less than 7% of our Mexican border routinely being patrolled. This is today's statistics. That territory continues to offer a lot more options. Once it gets inside our borders, we're talking a value of $20,000 a kilo. Wholesalers sell the goods to processors, runners, and street gangs. Now we're talking $50,000 per kilo, and once it's sold into units, such as the balloons, it's going to hit the streets worth around $100,000 a kilo. And yet, this is still cheaper than what our friends are buying it on the streets. I hope this enlightened you. I hope you realize this is a horrible epidemic and realize that we aren't all Democrats or Republicans. We're all in this together with what is now a huge epidemic in our country. Thank you.